Hello, welcome to the Chessboxing podcast. This week we've got a special guest all the way from Italy. It's Volfango Rizzi. Volfango, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Volfango Rizzi.
Rizzi. I have to tell you, I've known you for such a long time, but now focusing on your name, it is a really cool name.
Thank you.
What is there a meaning in Italian, or is it just simply a name? Name?
My first name, Italian people don't usually understand it, and they look at me like I'm a bit stupid and ask me, "Yes, but I want to know your name, not your surname."
So it's usually a surname.
Volfango. No, Volfango doesn't exist, but they, as they don't know the sound, they suppose it is a surname. It is the Italian version of a German name, Wolfgang, in German.
Okay. Oh, okay. And, so it originally derived from a German name.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. And Volfango, we've just had a brief chat before we came on air. But what do you do? Because you live near Milan, aren't you? What's your vocation?
Right. Well, in my life, I lived in different places, like about 17 years in Britain too, England and Wales, and I did a lot of jobs, but most of my time I was in education. So let's say that I've taught in all grades of school, starting from very early years to university.
All right. So where were you in the UK? You mentioned that you're living in the UK for quite a long period.
I lived in the 1990s. I lived in London. Then in year 2000, in September 2000, I moved to Aberystwyth, where at the age of 28, I started university.
Okay. Wow. And, no wonder your English is so much better than my Italian.
And then from Aberystwyth, I moved briefly to Liverpool and then to Chester, Alsager, back to Chester, and then I ended up in Wigan. That was the last place I lived in the UK.
Well, I think you've been to more places in the UK than I have. Quite a repertoire.
I might have forgotten a few, but yeah.
And before we get into it, I should just thank you as well for hosting us over the weekend. Me and some of the guys from London in Italy. We had an incredible time, and it was almost like something out of a picture book. The weather, the setting, the beautiful architecture, the food, the wine. It really was more than we could have ever hoped for. It was really fantastic. So thank you for that. So your background, obviously you're a teacher. You've moved around a lot, and you spent some time in the UK. But how did you get into chess boxing? Because I know that you've been involved in the sport for a lot longer than I have. Probably, I don't know, more than a decade, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's just about a decade. Yes, it was 2012. So yeah, it is a decade.
And how did you get involved? I got involved in around 2013. So actually, it's not so far away from when you got involved. But what drew you into the sport? I mean, I know you've got a chess background, haven't you? Was that part of it?
Yes. When I was 19 years old, I founded a chess club. And then since then, my life has been teaching chess and organizing, especially chess events for young people. I think it was on the chessbase.com website that I read news about chess boxing and so on. And then I started searching for videos, and I really liked the sport. And so I started contacting via email people involved in the sport, mostly Team Woolgar and Iepe Rubingh, but also 2 or 3 Italians that I saw they fought in Germany or London. Were 2 athletes plus Maestro Burli, Gianni Burli, who's a boxing trainer. So I started contacting them, and then I decided I was coming back to Italy to bring chess boxing to Italy, and founded that.
So you've obviously got a chess background. Did you have an interest in boxing as well?
No, not really, unless we count when I was a little child. One of my favorite cartoons was a Japanese cartoon about boxing. But apart from that,
Okay.
Not
It's interesting because a lot of our cohort in London come from a chess background. In fact, there's probably only a couple of guys who sort of came it through the combat sport route. So I think a lot of guys could empathize with that. And also, when we were in Italy, you told me a little background about the chess arbiter, the chess referee that you were using for your events, and that you taught him chess. Is that right?
Yes, he was one of my pupils. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was one of the little children who were coming, or young boys who were coming to play the tournaments I was organizing.
I mean, it's a lovely story. And then, and now he's gone on to coach chess himself and be an arbiter. And it sounds like he's really flourishing in the chess world. And he was only 19, I think, when he was arbitering. Is that right?
Exactly. Yes, he was 17 years old when he did the course for arbiter. That was the minimum. In actual fact, here in Lombardy, we did the course just after it was his birthday, so he could do the course, but he couldn't be officially an arbiter until he was 18 by Italian rules. Nowadays, also to do the course, you need to be 18 at least, but at the time it wasn't. And so he became a chess arbiter, but then there was the COVID period and they didn't had much chances to arbiter. But yeah, there in Vigevano, he arbitrated his second chess tournament, his second official chess tournament. And yeah, he managed to arbitrate also chess boxing. It was great.
It's great. So obviously I'm going to ask you about the tournament. Before we get onto that, I just wondered if you had any kind of thoughts and retrospectives about the chess boxing over the last 10 years. Obviously, we've had the film By Rook, or Left Hook, has come out, and you were obviously part of that film, but I wasn't. So it's for me, and for a lot of the guys who've just joined chess boxing, it's really interesting to see that film because we weren't living through it. But obviously you did, and you obviously knew Iepe and you knew Tim and you knew a lot of the characters. And I just wondered if you had any thoughts about the film and, why, for me, it was quite revealing as to why Tim and Iepe never made it work. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Okay, first of all, I would like to say the film is beautiful. So thanks to David Bitton, who worked so hard to make it happen. Yeah, I was very happy to also give hospitality to David when he came down to Milan. And I would have liked, helping him out even later on. Yes, I was involved in this dispute between the Tim and Iepe and trying to pacify, to make things work. So I invited them both in April 2014 in Milan, when we did the first event in Italy. And then once again, I invited them both in 2015 in Milan. And in fact, in Vigevano, I don't know, probably you just arrived, but you may have seen Tim and Iepe in a clip that we played just before the event in Vigevano to remember the memory of Iepe. And then a third time also, I really pleaded with Iepe, who was founding the new WCBO in Berlin and having like a meeting there. And he didn't want Tim to be present. But we managed like something between, like Tim was coming to Berlin. He wasn't coming to the official WCBO meeting, but we would have met him later on. In fact, it was Tim, Iepe, Montudas, and myself in like a pub. So we tried this 3 times, and then later on Tero get involved. Also tried, but we didn't manage to solve the differences between them.
No, yeah, it's a shame. But I mean, obviously, a large part of the film is about that, but there's also a lot of great bits in the film, like the Battle of the Two Cities. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's easy to focus on those negative elements, and obviously you've spent a lot of time trying to bring the sport together, which is commendable. But equally, I certainly enjoy the sport, and there's, you know, for all the hard work, there are some amazing people and some amazing moments in the sport. And I just wondered if you had any in particular. Maybe it was an event that you were running or an event that you went to. Certainly the Battle of the Cities in the show looked, I mean, I wasn't there, but it looked like a fantastic event. Yeah, I just didn't know if you had any sort of standout moments that you could point to and say, well, actually this made it all worthwhile, all the hard work and putting shows on and matching fighters, and it's a lot of work. We both know that. So there must be something about the sport that you enjoy.
Yes, I think one of the facets I enjoy about the sport is that I think chess, which is a sport or let's say a game I really enjoy and love, I think it's a quite boring sport for people to watch, unless they are really passionate chess players. Instead, chess boxing is able to involve these people into chess. So I really like when I come down to London to your events, and I can hear people chanting chess, 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 or something of this kind. It's fantastic. People getting passionate about the chess round. It's fantastic. So this is a facet of the sport that I really enjoy. And then there are other more obvious things like, but is it possible to play chess after having been beaten or beating someone up? And yeah, you know, when you are short of breath and having adrenaline, testosterone running through your veins, and so also I really like the fact that it's kind of chess that is a blitz chess in the end, and it's really prone to errors because this game is constantly stopped and restarted and stopped and restarted, and maybe even people are pumped loud music to their ears and so on. So it's really not the right conditions to play a chess game. So the fact that those chess games are more prone to errors than normal chess, I think it makes it more fun, because once then things on the board change, also the strategy of the whole match will change, because maybe I was thinking to be superior to you in chess and I found myself down in chess, and then now I have to try to knock you out. So
yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I think perhaps we both spent too much time in the sport, because you're right. I think one of the interesting elements are the elements that aren't obvious to the lay person, like the boxing, people understand boxing, chess, people understand chess, but it's when you put them together that you get other tactical and strategic and the other dynamics between the two sports. When you're sitting down, you're trying to play and you're tired and more likely to make a mistake. And even, you know, even the boxing affecting the chess is one thing, but the chess can affect the boxing. If your opponent's doing very well in the chess, then they're less likely to be aggressive in the boxing. They're more likely to defend, and you're more likely to be attacking, and how that dynamic affects the sport. You know, I think those little things are the things that I find most interesting, because I think they are exclusive to the sport, aren't they? Really, that there's nothing else that delivers those dynamics, which is really interesting.
Yeah, you're right. So there was an interesting interview, I think was this interview by international arbiter Sergio Pagano, who was time ago vice president of the Italian Chessboxing Federation. And in this interview, he was saying, maybe then I will not use the right English translation, but he was saying, like in chessboxing, there is a strategy for chess, a strategy for boxing, but then there is, like he was calling, a meta strategies, like a big strategy that encompasses the two sports together. And this might change depending on how chess and boxing are going through the match. So it's very, very interesting and dynamic sport.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. And perhaps we should move on to your event. You'll have to excuse my pronunciation, but the event was al fresco in Vigevano,
Yes.
Piazza Ducale. Is that right?
Ducale.
The Ducale. And if you get a chance, in fact, I'll put a link on the show notes or maybe even an image. This piazza was absolutely stunning. It was I think the town was built around in the 1400s. So you just imagine, tiled roofs and beautiful period buildings, beautifully decorated buildings around a square with a beautiful church. And when I arrived at the venue, I was like, this is incredible. Like, this is so unique, and what a great space to run chess boxing. And I was sitting there having a glass of wine on a Friday about 3 o'clock, and I think I sent you a message saying, I don't know how to say this, Volfango. It's absolutely pissing it down with rain. And we're thinking, oh no, it's going to be, we're going to get to we know the show is starting at 8:30. But by then it cleared up, and it was a beautiful evening, wasn't it? How did you get the venue? How did you put on such a great show? How did you think it went?
Okay, I have to say that this time round I was quite lucky, because it wasn't officially my event, but I worked for someone else. So let's say that it was a 3-day chess event, and the president of the Vigevano Chess Association is a friend of mine. And he inquired with me, because in the past I spoke to him, why don't we do chess boxing in Vigevano? I tried a few times. Even when in Italy we tried to make the World Championships, I asked him first if he wanted to hold in Vigevano. So this time around it was him inquiring, and in the end we agreed that if I managed to do something low budget, it was putting chess boxing into it. And I thought the venue is fantastic, like you said. Yeah, there is this cathedral, wonderful, and just behind the piazza, and you can see the tower. There is the castle, and in fact, we use the castle like for our changing room and the bathrooms and so on. So it was a really fantastic venue and beautiful place. Of course, the budget was limited. So also in the piazza, we could have done even a bigger and better show, but that was what the budget allowed us to do. We would have liked building like some seatings for public and having more lights, even lighting the outside area of the ring and so on. But well, that was the budget. And also the thing is that it was mostly a chess event, so he didn't want chess boxing to be placed on the second night, so that was a Saturday night, and I had to have it on a Friday night. So when I arrived there on Friday, they were still building everything up. So everything really ran through till the very last moment to be able to do the thing and be on time. But yeah, we did manage. Next time round, I really will put as a condition that chess boxing has to be on a Saturday, because I think chess boxing is much more fun than a live chess game that they did on Saturday.
Yeah, so we actually were there on a Saturday in the same square for the living chess. So if you don't know what living chess is, it is essentially a jumbo-sized board where all the pieces are human beings dressed up. And it was quite cool. They had obviously people dressed in full knight's armor with big swords. But obviously it was nowhere near as exciting as chess boxing. And by that point, we'd start to get really bitten by mosquitoes, so we didn't hang around too long, and we didn't watch that to the end. But one thing that I was incredibly jealous of is as a chess boxing promoter myself, was the fact you had a lot of fireworks on each corner. So when the fighters came in, you had sparks flying out, which sounds like a small thing, but to get any pyrotechnics into a show is basically impossible from a health and safety point of view, as far as I can gather. So
well, if you do it indoor, yeah, I can understand. Luckily, we were outdoors. So
yeah, being outdoors helps. But yeah, if you want to see the show there, I mean, the setup was great. They had full lighting truss, full audio system, a massive jumbo screen. Where can people see the video of the live stream for Volfango?
Well, they can watch it on YouTube or Facebook by searching for Ivan Gatti TV.
Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'll put a link below
Or
the show notes.
simply going to the Italian Chessboxing, so the FISP, Italian Chessboxing Federation, and then they can find some links.
Okay.
Yes, there was also one extra feature you didn't mention, or well, two, let's say. One, that the ring was bigger than many rings I've seen in chessboxing, because both in Berlin and London, you tend to have smaller rings, much smaller, especially the one they use normally in Berlin. But in Berlin, they had also bigger shows with bigger rings. But so this was a 7x7, was an Olympic ring, so 6x6 inside the ropes. But this ring was placed on a 12x12 chessboard, so that was also a very beautiful feature. Having this 12x12 chessboard in the middle of the piazza, and the chessboxing ring just above this chessboard. So that was a beautiful feature too.
Yeah, and do you want to talk a little bit about the fights? I was really pleased that you had a female bout, and I was lucky enough to meet and spend a bit of time with Juliana and her trainer. Yeah. She was obviously victorious in her bout. How did you think that female bout went? Because it's quite hard to match women chess boxers. I'm sure you agree.
I agree. And in fact, we are in contact, because I also try to help you, if we can, to have some female chess boxing in London, which in the past I've seen. I think in 2012, I saw female chess boxing in London. But yeah, it's more difficult. I was happy to hold it, although I know both that athletes were not in their top form. In actual fact, Simona just little before the fight didn't feel very well, so she had very little time to recover. So I think the quality of it wasn't great, but it was great to have a female fight, also to show the public and people there are also female chess boxers.
I think the boxing seemed well matched. I think Juliana was way ahead in the chess. I think that's what I saw. Mm-hmm. But it's like I said, Volfango, I don't think you should beat yourself up about this. I mean, it's so hard to get two women who want chess box, who are well matched in the boxing, that you almost can't worry about the chess, because there's so few. There's so few there, and if they're safe and they want to fight, I mean, I think it's great to get them in the ring.
In fact, I'm very happy we managed, and I'm very happy also this one in the history will be the first, let's say, at least for sure, the first international female fight in Italy. Yeah, maybe we had a first female fight in Italy that was international between two women. It wasn't something really probably official. So we had one already, but at least if it's not the real first one female fight in Italy, at least it's the first international female fight in Italy. So it is part of history, at least for chess boxing in this country. So I'm very glad we managed to make it. I'm really grateful to both chess boxers, because they both came from far, one from the south of Germany, the other one from Sicily, so even farther away. And also, as we well know, these days there are problems flying. So yeah, and also Simona had issues in being able to get to Vigevano on time because of the big delays with our flights.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, Zina, one of our colleagues who's a chess boxer, she had one fight cancelled, moved it to another fight, turned up to the airport, and that second flight was cancelled. And I know Richard, who we'll get onto, obviously fought in your show, he still isn't home because his flight was cancelled. So he's still in the airport in Italy as we're recording this, trying to get somewhere. And that's it for this week. We've got our second part of our interview with Volfango Rizzi in a couple of weeks. If you'd like to buy tickets for our show, we've got a few cut price tickets left, and they're on sale at chessboxingnation.com.